Yeah, you read that correctly. So, here's what happened in 2021. We got barraged with overtime, like, to a ridiculous degree. Everybody has varying levels of personnel shortage at their workplaces. It's worse at our facility because our general manager, who is new at our building, as in this is his first year working for the company, he's a complete idiot. He's not only resulted in our building being so ridiculously short-staffed that we've had to work overtime, again, nearly every week of the last goddamn year, mandatory at that, because of how low the personnel is. He's delayed hiring so much despite a lot of people working or looking for work. But on top of that, the hiring hasn't stuck because the overtime. And this is not helped by how the training at our facility is severely wanting. Every new every new hire I've encountered has this same problem where they are doing things in such a way that they are unnecessarily exhausting themselves instead of doing what I do at my workplace, where I've basically learned how to min-max. Now, for those who are newer to the channel or just do not watch my end-of-year vlogs to wrap up this stuff, I work at Amazon. There is a lot of poor press about Amazon as of late. Some deserved, some of it not. One that I would say is a bit undeserved is the whole mess about a tornado hitting a warehouse in December. It's like, who expects a tornado to hit in December? No one should be expecting a tornado to hit in December. For people who have said that they should have let the personnel leave because of severe storm warnings, it's actually illegal to eject employees from a workplace at a time where they can be injured or killed out on the road unnecessarily. Like, you're supposed to shelter people in place when a tornado strikes down. And from everything that's been made public about that incident, the tornado hit about 5 minutes after a tornado warning was called. From my experiences in my workplace from when tornado warnings are called, it usually takes about 2 minutes after the warning is called for the alert to go out to the personnel. This is usually because the person who gets the storm alert warning has to then message all the managers in the building, which are in charge of every team in each division, and then the messaging system takes a minute to do that, and then the messaging system takes a minute to go out from those managers if they are responding immediately. Sometimes they're walking around the building, making sure their personnel are doing all right, addressing employee critiques and whatnot, complaints, getting situations between personnel resolved, like, a manager is supposed to be doing. So if they don't see that, sometimes that can be further delayed. But if they're on top of that immediately, then it's about a minute from when they send it out to their personnel to the personnel actually receiving it. So that's 2 minutes down. Then it can take about 5 minutes to walk to a shelter. So you have a timeline of about 7 minutes from when a storm warning is first called to when all personnel would be in a shelter area. The tornado hit within the first 5 minutes of the warning being called. It's like, a lot of people are blaming Amazon for this, and admittedly, the response system could be a lot better. That has to do with just network delays, where it can take that long to get responses inter-network. There is no in-building alert system for tornadoes. Workplaces generally don't have those. The reason why there's a siren that goes out in public is because there used to be no easy warning system to inform people of those kinds of severe storm conditions. We didn't have phones back then. So, and the older way of doing it was to just go around a building with a bullhorn warning of a tornado warning being called. And after one is called in our buildings, there are personnel that also still do that in the event they are not at a station which can receive messages or are doing one of the jobs that requires them to walk around the building all day, which I have done. It happens. It has happened, again, with severe storms where I've had to get flagged over to get informed to go to a shelter area for those kinds of situations. This is normal policy, not just at Amazon, but at a lot of businesses. So I think, in my opinion, with my experiences with that, it more is just a case of this happened too fast for a proper response. Hell, even the reports that they were not able to, managers of that building were not able to supply a accurate head count makes sense because they don't take the head count until they've made sure every personnel that they could, every member of the staff that was there at the time was actually there in the shelter areas. So after they've collected people there, that's when they take the head count. They hadn't finished collecting people in the shelter areas, which is evident by the number of people who died. But does that sound out of line to anybody with how I've explained it? Because with everybody reporting on that, with everybody complaining about that, with everybody saying that Amazon's a bad company for not doing safety policy, this is the progress, or the progression of steps in the safety policy. If it could be executed faster, that would be nice. If it could be within 5 minutes of when the tornado warning is first called that everybody's in the shelter areas, that would be a lot more effective and possibly would have saved some people's lives. But there is always going to be a time delay from when a warning is called to when people get to safe areas, regardless of where they are. Assuming, and again, also for people who say they should have just let them leave, again, it is deadlier to be out in a vehicle than in a shelter area inside of a larger building, because your vehicle can get picked up by a tornado and flung at such high velocities or such an angle that you're killed, or debris can smash through your window and kill you. That is almost absolutely a certain death versus getting into shelter areas, and just that entire situation's a mess. So, yeah, Amazon ain't perfect. I don't blame them for that. I do blame my general manager, my building manager, for how badly they've been scheduling us, though. I mentioned in the Super World Wars V reviews that I worked 400 hours, 400 hours of overtime in 2020. I worked well over that in 2021. The only advantage of that is they keep offering double time for people to come in because we are just so exhausted week over week with that. Admittedly, I've built up a insane level of endurance because throughout the last 2 years, I have worked 7 months collectively where I have worked 60-hour weeks. That is, 4 weeks out of a month, I have worked 60-hour weeks collectively for 7 months. 3 of those months in this count being during the quarantine. That is a lot of overtime. And it doesn't help that our general manager keeps misscheduling things, where they call in people for mandatory double time on weeks where we don't have the work that needs to go out. And a lot of the problems with that, again, relates to how poorly the training goes, because in my division specifically, which seems to be the cascading problem of all this, we pull items out of storage into plastic bins, which then get sent down through a conveyance line to our pack department. A lot of people are only filling those bins about the depth of this foam panel, which I have a lot of because, as you can tell from the audio quality on just my camera, has improved a lot because I finally have a dedicated recording space for everything because I own my own house now. Thank you, Mom's death insurance on that. But yeah, this is about the width of two of my palm heights right here. That's how deep they fill these. You want to know how deep the bins are? this deep. Now imagine something like the size of this, which only has this amount of space filled in it with, like, it's less than a tenth of the space of this bin. So, not even that much, but imagine someone then, instead of filling it up, you just keep sending it all out, and sending it all out, and sending it all out. And that not only is a waste of energy on the part of the personnel who are doing this, it exhausts them faster because they're doing a bunch of unnecessary actions. It is also clogging the entire conveyance network of our building, so we can't get items packed up and then shipped out, because sometimes items go into the same bin are for a single order. Sometimes those bins go out to our ship dock to go to another facility. Sometimes those bins just go to the singles pack department where only one item is put in a bag because a person ordering items only ordered one item. I should have rephrased that statement, but you get where I'm going with this. So imagine all of those bins with barely anything in them going down a conveyance line to all these different departments, and then having all the personnel in those departments having to put up with all of that just separated everywhere. It clogs everything. And I have brought this up to my managers before, and they say there's a bigger issue of people overfilling the bins for things that fall out. And that is also an issue where, like, something small is stuck on top of something that is, like, filled this big, and then when it goes through the conveyance line, it falls out because, you know, the conveyance lines sometimes go at steep angles or at such fast speeds through the building that it's just thrown up. That can also be a rather big issue that is also dealt with just setting those small items to the side or leaving them under something larger in such a way where it's not crushed. That does also sometimes happen. That usually is damaged out before it even gets packed up, so that's not as big a deal. But when the conveyance lines are just so backed up with empty bins and no one is correcting this, because unfortunately managers in my division and managers in other divisions don't consider it that big a deal, even though I keep calling it out as such, and I have had them watch associates that are doing it. They don't keep correcting it. Well, that is why we keep under-shipping stuff, because the training is not, the training for new personnel is not covering this problem, so people work harder with no actual improvement in the quality of the work that goes into it. No one is thinking to work smarter, not harder, and it's been pretty freaking detrimental. The root problem of this is the process I was taught when I started there like 4 years ago is called decide by next item. Decide when to push one of these things out by whether the next item fits. They don't teach that anymore because they had to standardize the training. It backfired immensely because they redesigned that training in 2020 to address social distancing matters with, because usually the training used to be a bit more personal, and that you'd actually see how a properly trained associate would do their job, and then the new hires would ask questions, and you'd go through it and learn the process of how someone experienced would do it. Now you just learn from a training module on a monitor, which doesn't exactly tell you all the details of how to move and how to take stress off of your body. It is a mess, and because of that mess, we are getting stuck with a lot of extra work. Now, the advantage of that is I and my roommates are basically in the black financially. We got a lot of money out of the last year that has been put towards just paying off the house and saving for actual improvements to this place. Our windows are not very good. From everything we've been able to tell, they came with the house, and the house was built in the 1930s, so almost 100-year windows, they're overdue for a replacement. Not just because of cracks in them, but because the frames of them are wood, and wood has all kinds of problems with expansion and contraction depending on heat levels. So it's been a fight to actually keep this place warm when it's been getting below freezing. And believe it or not, this was actually the best place on the market when we were actually looking. At the very least, again, we have space now, so I can dedicate a room to actually doing video stuff, but with the expectation that we're going to be working ridiculous amounts of overtime for at least another year because of our general manager's idiocy and because the training modules for new hires are woefully inadequate, it has sapped not just my time, but my level of attentiveness to actually scripting videos. Now, to have a caveat or clarification of what the hiatus means, I'm only releasing, it's not a complete hiatus, we're not going away completely, and I do have about, like, between 6 and 8 videos I will be releasing this year because they relate either to Patreon, which I don't want to push those Patreon requests back further from a year of... Rephrase. I don't want to push Patreon requests back a full year from when they were requested. I want to get them done in a reasonable amount of time as I can, but it takes time. And the other ones I want to release are all related to significant anniversaries. It is .hack's 20th anniversary this year. I want to release a video in commemoration. Ironically, one that does not actually relate directly to the franchise, but relates directly to the franchise's development, which I feel would be an interesting video to do. It is not about the Mama conspiracy from the third arc of .hack's content. I still need more time on that because I just... Flames in the side of my face whenever, you know that old joke, whenever I end up engaging with analysis of that storyline and I kind of want to be a bit more sane in how I present my critique of one of the worst plot lines for a VR isekai anime out there. Believe it or not, it was much better executed in Sulato Robo than it was .hack for that. Regardless, what's going to end up replacing that is we're trying to get a proper streaming schedule together. Alexis, John, and I have a bunch of games that we've stockpiled, both video and some board games. John has a few varied Warhammer 40k media he'd like to stream simply because he's a Warhammer 40k fan. For those who might ask, I am not a fan of Warhammer 40k. I have, if you couldn't tell from my critiques of the Universal Century Gundam, I have issues with the narrative of many nihilistically toned series. Not everything. Some of them justify themselves better than others, but from everything John's shown us of Warhammer 40k, I could just not engage with it. I'm not saying it's bad, it's not something that appeals to me. I hope that's reasonable for the Warhammer 40k fans in my audience. I know there are a few. So, yeah, we'll be doing something with that kind of stuff. On top of that, John has a thing he wants to do in May that I'm forgetting what it is specifically, but that'll eat a week. And Alexis's sister is getting married in June, so we're going to be taking time for that. And I have not yet buried my mother from when she died in 2020. Her last will and testament, at least what we were able to reconstruct, she hadn't actually updated the damn thing since I was a kid. It was her wanting to have her ashes spread in the spring when the lake by which they lived had just freshly melted, and we missed our opportunity last year to do that, not just because it was so cold, but because I was stuck working so much overtime. It's been overtime hell. So between the expectation that 2022 is going to be much the same from a work standpoint, because our general manager for our building is so terrible at scheduling across the board, it's just, and all these other things that are racking things up, I need rest. I need time to recuperate to myself, and I need the free time to get the rest of the house in order. I've actually been on vacation for a week because I have stockpiled so much overtime, time off from work over the course of the last year that I can basically take a paid month off. I did that last year, and to a lesser extent the year before, because there's just so much work, and I tried to sequester off January to do a bunch of the work on video stuff. It's just, to do work on the video stuff in January, I kind of need to have everything scripted and audio recorded and video recorded, that is, beforehand. I actually got done the footage for, or the hard editing for almost everything that was released this last year in just January. The reason I had to delay releases into June and July was because, well, we moved and we needed to get new carpeting put in right as we moved, so it took a month before I could actually set up the set to actually film everything and then edit in those live segments to what I'd finished before the videos would be actually ready in any presentable way to go on YouTube. Now, YouTube itself has been all sorts of a pain as of late. Just looking, if for those who are aware of it, one example of why I absolutely refuse to go back to doing anything that promotes Toei videos is Toei has gotten even worse with abuses of copyrights and content ID on the platform. And it's gotten to the point where YouTube has themselves said that Toei itself alone makes millions of false copyright claims within a given year. The worst case of the last year, or the last few weeks actually, being when the YouTuber Totally Not Mark had all his videos about One Piece taken down. Now, this is this is an especially egregious example of their overreach with this, because Toei did not take down videos of someone reviewing the anime, which they would have the rights to take that down. They would have the rights to take those videos down if, say, the clips were over a certain time frame. Usually, for safety, I don't have any clip be for a TV series or movie be longer than 7 seconds. But Mark was not reviewing the One Piece anime owned by Toei, or produced by Toei. Mark was reviewing chapters of the manga, which is owned by the company Shueisha, and Toei has no right to claim copyright over manga pages, period. This is how bad their abuse and overreach of the copyright content ID system on YouTube is. This is consistently across the board with them. I have had vlogs talking about Toku shows and movies claimed by them. It's actually part of why, not just because I stopped promoting this stuff from Toei, but why I just stopped doing them in general. It's just, it was so much wasted effort that it just became exhausting. I'm actually happier now limiting myself to the anime and game reviews that I have been doing for a while than I was having to deal with the headache that is Toei. So, just to emphasize something I've had to keep repeating for the last 3 years, please stop asking. I am still getting this. I complained about this in the beginning of the Wonderful 101 review I did this year because it is that bad. Please, watch something else that I actually make and have enjoyed. I put a hell of a ton of effort into the Super Robot Wars V reviews, and they have not actually seen that great a viewership despite my audience numbers. It's like, how many of you people don't even bother with my channel anymore? Just, if you... it's a point of frustration for me. And actually, another reason why I need to take this hiatus, because in a normal month of work now, like if I take absolutely zero overtime, then what I actually get between Patreon and Google Ads is less than 1/30th of my income. I'm not kidding on that. It's just that low now compared to what I earn in a normal month from just my normal job. It gets even worse than that when you actually start accounting for time and a half and double time overtime, which I've been taking for so long. It really is to the point where I don't have many other things I want to buy for collectibles and media and whatnot, so it's just anything I'm earning the next year from overtime, which, to tell how bad it is, it's the week after. I'm recording this on the 31st, and we got an alert last night telling us that we shipped so poorly because of all these issues that there's such a severe Christmas backlog that they're calling overtime for the next week. I am on vacation, so I don't have to go in for that, but it is just damn irritating considering we had to shut down for several days during Christmas peak season because of how badly the building is being mismanaged by this one idiot. We were scheduled for 6 10-hour days during peak season, which is very stressful on one's body and very exhaustive, so a lot of people just cannot deal with that amount of time working, to the point that we actually had personnel leave at 55 hours worked that week every week in protest. Normally our peak season work schedule is 5 11-hour days, one more than normal per day, and they do that simply so they can give us 2 consecutive days off. And this is actually very helpful. It seems like a lot. It actually is better. I've experienced work. As I've said, I've worked 60-hour weeks where I've worked 6 10-hour days for 7 months. It is not pleasant. I have personal experience in that. I much prefer the 55-hour system, because the way the 55-hour system works over those 5 days is, if we're not shipping to the numbers as expected, then you can flex in 5 additional hours in a half day. And a half day is not stressful on one's body at all, even if you've worked 5 days previously. Or at least it's less stressful on the body. So while you get less consecutive recuperation time, it still allows more collective time off for rest, which is important for just coming back and being more active and productive the next week. And I swear this is true, but our general manager, whenever anyone would try to explain this to them, they pretended that they did not understand English. I know how that sounds, but I swear it is true. I ended up encountering this person myself, and they were doing something that was actually causing me physical pain. The high-pitched screaming stuff I've mentioned before in videos where I would tell you guys about how sensitive my hearing is, that to the point that some noise would cause me pain. This is something he was doing, and I wrote it down for him that this is painful to me, please stop, and he acted like he could not read it. He's just like, that is how bad this guy is. And what we're suffering from when the building used to be much better managed. So, yeah, I gotta take time off from doing scripted videos. I am shunting everything I can to 2023, and trust me, I am still working on stuff, I'm still trying to script stuff, but I will not have what I'm working on ready to go for 2020. I have a better chance for getting it all done for 2023. Bar some videos I am still releasing, like I said. It's just the it's not in the cards to try and get that out for even a half season this year. For stuff that is coming down the pipeline later in 2023, I have recorded footage for Persona 5 Royal. I wanted to do that for 2022 because it's been 5 years since I did Persona 4 Golden, and I think that's a reasonable window after the game released to address spoiler stuff, especially since, you know, Persona 5 Royal was a much more recent, complete story release, which I was actually waiting to come out, because I expected it to come out. I got through Tales of Grace's F, which has CyberConnect related content to it, and it's a lower tier Tales game, so I wanted to see what that involved, because a Patreon request that didn't that got redacted is Tales of Symphonia, and I played through that, and I have thoughts on that too. I might as well roll into the Tales of Grace's review. I completely finished scripting the Rockband.exe access videos from start of that season to the end of the season. I don't have the time to produce all of those for 2022. Plus, I don't want to have another year where I'm just deluging those onto people without them being properly spaced out with other content. I know, actually, that a lot of people are sick of that on my channel, especially with how I'm splitting them up, simply so I don't have these massive time sync videos that only come out so often. I like to release content on a regular schedule. So those will be out in 2023. I've also got done, actually in the last few days, Mega Man Battle Network 5 Double Team DS. I was not able to unlock everything that the DS version allows for access, but I got most of it. And one I'm actually working on next week is a franchise that was previously a Patreon goal, but actually need to talk about to get to other stuff that I want to discuss. It's the Xeno series of Xenogears, Xenosaga, and the Xenoblade Chronicles games. I'm going to be playing Xenogears next week alongside my roommate Alexis, taking us through the English version of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Now, I specified the English version of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 because Xenoblade Chronicles English dub is notoriously terrible and mistranslated to hell. Unfortunately, it's one of those cases where the dub is so awful that it's absolutely hilarious. The voice actors actually learned, at least the voice actors for the characters Pyra and Mithra, who showed up in Smash Brothers, actually learned about how bad her performance was after the fact, and had she gone into it with her current skill set as a voice actress, she would have given a much better performance. But it's at least hilarious for everything that goes down. But the Japanese audio is apparently much superior. I've looked up clips, so I have seen how significant a difference it is. Really wish they hadn't renamed like 90% of the characters, though. There's a lot of amazing Mythos gags in the game that are just kind of lost, but from what I've heard, only the Xenosaga games have anywhere near an appropriate translation. Xenogears, at least, having the defense that it's a PS1 game. So, yeah, I'm going to be working on those for the next few years because it ties into several other games and story content I want to be talking about. It reached the point that I'm in such a preparatory stage for all this that... where is it? Yeah, I already went and tracked down the anime, so you can look forward to seeing that in the next couple of years. But just for this coming year, to make sure that I can actually not completely burn myself out or suffer a case of karoshi, I need the time off. I hope you all can understand that, and I hope you guys will be able to turn out for the streams that we will be making. Alexis got me a new capture card, so we should see some higher visual quality sent out to you guys, and also from stuff I record in the future, because you can tell from the box in the corner, I also got a new PC because my current one is failing me. This is actually like the 4th time I've tried recording this vlog. I hope it's better presented than the previous versions. that I'm obviously not releasing, but just want to say I'm trying to get this to a point where I'm not so much stumbling over my words, as that is as annoying for me as it might be for all of you to hear. So, hope you all have had a better year than 2020 was. I hope we can all get through 2022 without just events around the world screwing us over. Hopefully a certain faction will not be... well, they'll be assholes by default, but hopefully we can just counteract their awfulness. But regardless of that, I hope you guys all stay well, and I will see you when I see you.